Outdoor Life Network presents the 2003 Verizon FIVT Men's Bobsled World Championships in Lake Placid, the only U.S. city to host 2 Winter Olympic Games. And it's been 20 years since the world's best bobsledders have returned to the Adirondack Mountains in upstate New York. Today, day 1 of the 4-man competition, 2 runs today and 2 more tomorrow to determine perhaps a new world champion. They'll be competing for one of the most coveted pieces of hardware in the sport. John Morgan, tell us more about this trophy.
The Martineau Cup, they've been giving away in bobsledding since 1930. One of the first legends to win it, Billy Fisk, won the gold medal here at 4-man bobsledding in Lake Placid in 32. And they've been giving this prestigious trophy away since then at every 4-man world championship. Martineau is one of the founders of the St. Moritz Bobsled Club in St. Moritz, where the sport was founded. And here in 2000, Andre Lange won it, and here Christoph Lange won it in 2001. Today's favorites is Andre Lange, won this event last year, the Olympic gold medalist in Salt Lake. He's superstitious. He didn't want his team to see the trophy or touch it. Lange's had a great year. He won the World Cup title this year at 4-man. He is the big-time favorite here. Sanders Prusis of Latvia, his teammates, they polished it up, they took it away. They think they have a great chance of winning the trophy. He had a great season in Europe, won the event in Cortina. He also won the European Championships in Winterberg. Great season for Prusis. But Todd Hayes of the United States, he's looking at the last time the United States won. 1959 here at St. Moritz, Art Tyler won it on an American-designed sled. Maybe history can repeat itself. 2 more guys to look at is Spies on the left and Bruno Mangeot on the right.
In the shadow of Whiteface Mountain in the Adirondacks, welcome to Mount Van Hovenberg for the 2003 Verizon Bobsled World Championships here on the Outdoor Life Network. I'm Chris Kelly, and the Americans have a great chance to win gold at the Worlds for the first time since 1959. I'm joined by my colleague, John Morgan, and we're seeing considerable temperature changes from what we saw in the 2-man last weekend.
Well, it was 25 below zero for the first sled last week in the 2-man. It's 25 above zero this week, a 50-degree temperature change. This is winter sports, but that was pretty extreme in the athletes last week. This week, they're a lot more comfortable.
Todd Hayes and his crew have had some fantastic training runs.
Yeah, well, they're the home track favorites. They've been on this track more than anybody else. He's had the luxury of trying different runners and different grooves through the course, and it's definitely his race to lose.
This is the culmination of another fantastic season on the World Cup circuit. Let's take a look back at the races held earlier this year. John, things started out in Germany, and Andre Lange, the man that we're going to have our eye on today, starting off with a win.
Yeah, and Andre Lange, this is his home track in Altenburg. Very similar to Lake Placid, very challenging on the drivers. Lange made it look easy, blew the rest of the field away.
Second World Cup event, Eagles Austria, a track that's hosted a couple of Olympic Games itself.
Lange won the 2-man event here. Everybody thought he was going to run away with the whole season. Superior start times on the short 1,200-meter track built for the 76 Games. And Lange had won 3 of the first 4 events of the year in the 2- and 4-man competitions. He looked unstoppable.
And Lange won the 2-man event here in Lake Placid at the World Championships just last weekend. He is certainly driving well onto the ritzy Italian community of Cortina d'Ampezzo.
Talk about a run for the ages. This was it. Sanders Prusis, the perfect run. Everybody commented he was perfect all the way down the track. This guy has got the eyes and hands, and he proved it on this day.
He has never won a medal in a major competition, a World Championships or an Olympic Games. Now on to La Plagne, where the 92 Olympics were held.
Yeah, Weisstauer of Germany, his first World Cup ever. This is a guy you got to watch out for. He won the Junior World Championships, and is only one of 2 appearances this year. He surprised everybody and captured this event in La Plagne, France.
That shows you the depth of the German program, that the 3rd German sled can go out and win an event. Now on to St. Moritz, where there's so much tradition in this sport.
Well, tradition's in the face of Rugs. There's 4 different Rugs that are competing. Ralph Rug walked away with a 4-man race today. On this day, his uncle and brother I used to compete again in the late 70s. Big tradition in bobsledding.
Ralph Rug not competing this weekend in the World Championships because of an injury. That certainly opens up the top of the field because he finished 3rd in the overall World Cup standings. On to the 6th race of the year, back to Germany, Winterberg this time.
Big upset on the German home track. You don't see this too often. Prusis doesn't get the superior start times, but boy, did he have a great day again. 2 unbelievable heats, and at the bottom, he ended up beating Lange by just a few fractions of a second, and it was the European Championship, and look at this celebration. This tells you how happy he was on that day.
wrapping up the season, the World Cup finale in Calgary.
And this is where Lange started getting hungry. He won the two-man event in Calgary. He won the four-man event here. Ended up capturing the four-man title over Lange, over Cruces in this race here. So he won these two races. He won last week. He's on a roll.
A silver for Todd Hayes in the American sled in that event, and he's coming in on a roll. He has his Olympic team from 2002 back intact. We're going to take you on a trip down this track when we get back, and it is definitely the thrill of a lifetime. The World Championships brought to you by Verizon, proud sponsor of the U.S. bobsled and skeleton teams. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back to Lake Placid. John, let's take a look at this track these people will be competing on today.
Well, almost 1,500 meters, built for the Goodwill Games in 2000. They've been on this track now for 3 years. The ice is very mature. Record times. Racing on the edge, the theme of the bobsledders throughout the season. Up here, you got to be very smooth and steady. Get in right here. All teams down before this first corner. You can't make any kind of movements up here when the speeds are slow. First speed trap there. That's going to be real crucial to see the type of speeds at the exit of that corner. Cliffside corner. Famous name in the sport of bobsledding. And way back at the old track, they had a cliffside corner on the old track that sits a couple hundred meters to the left of the track they've just built. Now, at a cliffside, you're going to a big sweeping left, a white face turn. Guess what? They had a white face turn way back at the 32 Olympic track. They took it down for the mile and a half to the mile. Now into the most challenging part of the track, Devil's Highway. This is where the articulation of the sleds and the athlete's skills are maximized. Into Shady. But Shady has something else in common on this mountain. There's another Shady across the way. The old Shady, one of the most famous corners in the world. That was a challenge. Bottom part of the track now into the labyrinths. Another speed trap on the exit of Shady. Pivotal part of the course, slingshot effect. Three-corner combination now in the labyrinths. Let the sled run. Get the maximum speed up. Benham's Bend. Lake Placid native who won 2 silver medals at the 52 games in Oslo. Chicane, another speed trap fastest part of the track. This is where you're going to have to snake through this corner without any bumps. Now into the heart. Almost 4 Gs of course. Down here, no mistakes allowed. Now uphill into the finish. We're going to see record times all day, Chris.
You did predict that the track record would fall today, and we're going to take a look at what happened in the first heat. Didn't take long. The first 4 sleds down today actually broke the old track record. Here's Sandus Cruces in 4th place after run number 1.
Well, the reason they're breaking the track record is Tony Carlino, the guy who manages this track, and put it in fantastic shape, and the athletes are just flying down at speeds that they've never had before. Cruces in 4th place, surprised at that. Here's the big surprise, the only guy wouldn't expect to be there, Zubkov from Russia. Superior start time to the top of the track. He lacks in driving skills, but he didn't have a problem with the track here. Look at the way he gets through the chicane, perfectly clean. He's a surprise 3rd place position at the moment.
We'll see if he can maintain this for 4 runs. If this was a 2-run race, I'm sure he'd like his chances. And here's the local favorite, Todd Hayes.
Yeah, great start time right up there with Zubkov. And you would expect him to be there. The Bodine sled flew down the track. Big crowd on hand, a lot of cowbells rooting him on. 2nd place after the first heat.
And surprise, surprise, your leader after run number 1, Andre Longa.
And another track record, another day at the office. He's won 3 races in a row. End of the season, he likes to peak like he did last year when he won the gold medal in Salt Lake.
And you said what makes this guy so special is that he doesn't drive the sled very much, just lets it run.
He lets it fly. He's on 2 runners all the way down the track.
Here's a look at your jury. These are the men who will be checking out, make sure that the sleds weigh the proper amount, make sure that everything is kosher with the sleds and the competitors. We're going to head to the top now, and our first sled of the competition here in run number 2, Monaco, not Prince Albert Grimaldi, but instead Patrice Serville, the driver of this sled.
Yeah, top 10 finish last week in the 2-man. He's really been coming on. He used to ride with Prince Albert the last 4 years. They've got a great coach, Christian Reich, the former Swiss silver medalist from last year's Olympics in Salt Lake, and two-man bobsled. And if you notice, this sled is a Reich-built sled. You know he's got some Reich runners on it, and that's what Monaco did. They went out and purchased some great technology. Here's our start list. Stevie Holcomb from Park City will be coming up shortly.
The start time is so critical in this sport.
Well, anybody down below 5 has got a chance. 5:18. They didn't get in the sled cleanly. You know, he's just buying his time. He's really had a great year. He loves this track. Now watch the way these sleds, the articulation, the split. That's where the sleds walk on and off the corners. Lake Placid, the articulation's max. Look at it right here. See that split come out? The head slap, I mean, 4 G's of numbers here in Shady. Slingshot effect on the bottom part of the track. If you rope yourself out of Shady properly, that sets you up for the bottom part for the high speeds. He's in 15th place. We go 15 to 1 here in the second run. This is our first guy down. Little skid in the chicane. There's Christian Reich, the coach I talked about, the silver medalist from last year's Olympics.
Good speed coming through the chicane at 127 clicks.
That's about 75 miles an hour. He ducks his head as he comes underneath the finish line. That's our first man down.
Plenty more still ahead as we continue with the Bobsled World Championships on the Outdoor Life Network. Back right after this.
And that'll set.
The next sled in our competition in 14th position coming into this second run, the Netherlands, the driver, Aaron Glass.
Yeah, the Dutch are hamming it up a little bit. Hasn't had a great year. He had a much better start team last year, much better success. Didn't finish in the top 15 at the Olympics, but had a couple great results in the World Cup circuit. This year has been a floundering year for him. And their nemesis is start time, 5:23. When you consider other people are getting into the sub-5s, there's a 3-time multiplier effect they say at the bottom. If you're 500 ahead at the start, you'll be 1,500 ahead at the bottom. All things being equal. Here's our comparison. Which driver gets in the quickest? Some people like getting quick for the gravity. Glass is in almost 2 steps quicker. What philosophies about that? Tanks hard there.
Certainly no way to miss that sled coming down the track. You see the paint jobs on a lot of these are very unique for the individual countries and the drivers themselves.
That's the Dutch orange. 1400s lead. He's real high and shady, a little late there. Minus 14. Next clock you see him minus 17, 18. He's going to be safely ahead at the bottom. If you see that drop to minus 9 or 10, means he's made some driving errors. He's dropped to minus 12.
That was pretty clean.
Pretty clean, but he's dropped a little bit. Means he's at the same speed as the Monegasque at the bottom. This should be close.
Monaco waits in the winner's box to see if they get to stay. They
stayed on.
Netherlands now in first place by 0.12 of a second.
Well, 100th of a second is the length of your fingernail.
Runs almost 4 miles of racing. It's amazing how little it takes to get into first place.
Yeah, he's a little low here. Look at the other runner marks. Now the sled climbs a little bit. Now look, he goes up high there. That's what I was talking about, that the sled got away from him a little bit shady. He's late. Now he comes down, and he almost flops a little bit. Speed, though, he had a lot more speed than the Monegasque on the exit, and the coaches love it.
So they are in first place for the time being, but plenty of more sleds to come. Next up, Latvia 2, the driver Gatis Guts in 13th position coming into run number 2. He did pretty well in the 2-man event, but is he healthy right now, John?
Well, he's crashed earlier in practice, his first trip down this week at 4-man.
And he crashed on this track
2-man twice last year. They just shrugged that off. It's like taking a big hit and going over the middle of football. These guys are athletes. They're used to this kind of pressure. Minus 28 big lead. gives up a little time at the start, probably because they're all a little wounded. Ended of a long season. These guys been running sleds for 4 months. They kicked over on Tuesday. That's the equivalent of having about 25 guys kick you as you're laying on the ground. That's not a fun thing to do. And then you have to get out here and push the sleds down. Minus 20 to minus 30 means he's on a great line. And barring some kind of tragedy down here, he should be our leader. Chicane, one of the beautiful shots on this track. Big speed. Just 80 miles an hour in speed. They're going to finish. The Dutch look on. Looks like it's going to be Latvia the lead. They're waving goodbye. They already know it. The Latvians take the lead, but Guts is expecting to do better. He finished 5th in the Superman last week.
54.76, not quite as good as his first run time of 54.68, but it is good enough to get him into first place so far. Here we take a look at a replay of the chicane.
Look at the runner tips coming straight at us. You want to try and bump yourself through here without touching. Now remember, the 2-mans, they were bumping left and right. These 4-mans, they go a lot straighter. They're like a big, heavy truck.
The ice certainly gets cut up quite a bit over the course of a full week of training and then competition days. Now back to the top for the first American sled of the day, USA 2. Your driver, Stephen Holcomb, just 22 years old out of Park City, Utah. His teammates, Ivan Radcliffe from Houston, Will Person, born in St. Louis, and Doug Sharp of Louisville, Kentucky, who was a member of Brian Scheimer's bronze medal winning team at the 2002 Olympics.
Sharp's a pole vaulter out of Purdue.
This is the first major competition for Holcomb, the driver.
Just coming off finishing 6th in the Junior World Championships a couple weeks ago. Decent start time, 5:08. Hats off to the U.S. program for developing these young drivers. Mike Kahn last week, now Stevie Holcomb. He's been a crew member for 2 or 3 years already. He's been on the scouting team, and he's eager. And at this age, he's got a tremendous future.
He's got some hardcore in his sled dedicated to the Space Shuttle Columbia victims.
He was late off that corner, but you expect a sharp pilot to make the mistakes. The first international competition of a major scale, World Championships on Lake Placid. He's flying. One of the Bodine sleds, minus 12, minus 19, good speed. Should be the leader. This is a great performance by a young U.S. pilot. I've never seen a younger guy in the driver's seat for the United States.
He certainly has a bright future in this sport for 10 years or more. He could be the guy that we're talking about, especially after Todd Hayes retires. Plenty more from Lake Placid. We'll be back right after this.
Hey, make sure you stick around next year for all of the World Championships live from Koenigsee.
Ray Swenson talking about the World Championships next year. All 3 disciplines in the FIVT will stage their competitions, their World Championships in Koenigsee, Germany, which is Berchtesgaden right across the border from Salzburg. Men's bobsledding, 2- and 4-man, both competitions will be there. Women's bobsledding that was held in Wittenberg, Germany 3 weeks ago. Germans won it. Men's and women's skeleton. This has never happened before. The Worlds this year were in Nagano, Japan for skeleton. All 3 disciplines next year in Koenigsee, Germany, February 2004.
The Koenigsee track is very challenging.
Very tight, very quick.
There are some German fans on hand, and appropriately enough, at the start now, Germany 3. The pilot is Hofner, currently in 11th place, heading into run number 2. And we've mentioned that he actually won a World Cup event earlier this year.
No, I was his teammate, Feistauer.
Oh,
but they have so many pilots. They have if they had 10 drivers in this race, they'd finished 10 sleds in about 15, 16. There's so much depth. They've got 4 different tracks in Germany. And this guy's his first time out of the World Cup circuit for the whole season, except for 2 races. That was one race they had Feistauer in, and Feistauer won it.
In all the sliding sports, the Germans are so deep and so dominant.
Well, they allow that skiing stuff to go to the Swiss and the Austrians, and they take over the bobsled, luge, and skeleton sports. Skeleton, they don't dominate as much. Look at the articulation here. -3 to -2. But look at the speed. That's a big deal. Big speeds after that first corner, and that all just tells you that that -2 should be up to the -8 or -9. No, -2. So he must have made a mistake up there in curve 4 that took off that edge advantage of speed that he had. It looks like he's got this thing running pretty true right now. -2 to -3.
That was very clean through the chicane.
Little spray off those one runners. This is going to be right to 100. For Hofter, looks like he was increasing speed pretty good at the bottom. Could be close. 600s. The USA team. Can't let that bother you, Stevie. A lot more bobsledding for you.
He's still in a very good position and has to be thrilled with his day 1 effort so far, and he's close enough now that he could move up in day 2 tomorrow.
Yeah, Hofter likes his run, maintains his position. He didn't have a very good first run. I thought he'd be in the top 6 or 7. Look at the runner marks up there. Look, he's not as high as we've seen a couple other sleds. And here on the exit, he gets that slingshot effect. You saw the articulation right there getting stretched a little bit. And here's the expression from the U.S. team down below, 600s with the length of your finger. Don't move up one.
So Germany is in first position. Now back to the top for Italy. 1 Fabrizio Tossini is the driver, and you will see the logo for Torino 2006 on their sled. Of course, Torino hosting the 2006 Winter Olympic Games.
The Italians are rebuilding. Tossini's had some, just can't put 2 heats together. Gets the good heats back on one, good coach, urging him on. It's about explosion power at the start. 5:18 the first heat, 5:13, so that extra screaming by the coach got him off the mark a little quicker.
As they make
Then you get in, you have to get in the cat-like movements. Sit down, there's a bang. It's a half a kilometer down to Hopton. Hopton made some mistakes up top that took off that edge advantage. Here we are in the Devil's Highway, 2 runners. Whoa, plus 13. That's a lot of time to make up on the bottom of this track. With Tossini's driving skills, he's going to be perfect here to have a chance. Big speed, still plus 13. That's a good sign. He stopped the bleeding is the expression. But I don't know, I think he's going to be down at least a 10th or so.
The Germans look pretty confident in the winner's box, John. And for good reason. That was not a great second run for Tossini and the Italian team, and they dropped back a couple of spots. Germany remains in the lead, but with 9 sleds to go.
Yeah, you can see him shaking his head. He didn't like it.
It all started at the top. He really didn't have the speed that he needed, and then some problems down the run that just added to the deficit that he faces heading into day 2. Plenty more coming up after this. The 2003 Bobsled World Championships are being brought to you by Verizon, proud sponsor of the U.S. Bobsled and Skeleton teams. Now the sled from the Czech Republic, the driver Ivo Danilovic.
Nice to see Ivo this time. Last week in the World Championship, 2-man competition, disqualified second day for hot runners. And it was 25 below 0, so he must have had them runners really hot disqualified. The last person I can remember being disqualified for hot runners, Brian Scheimer at the 94 Olympic Games in Lillehammer, where it was also 25 below.
Tell us exactly what heating up the runners would do. If the ice is so hot and the sleds would be moving faster, it would seem like that wouldn't help.
Well, they would create a little film of water between the runner and the ice, which reduces friction. It's the nemesis in a sport that deals with gravity. You want free flow as much as you can. You'll be surprised. These runners, there's only an inch that really comes in contact with the ice. So you want that inch. You want the least amount of control as possible for the fastest amount of speed, less friction. There's 200s down. Slingshot effect in the bottom part of Shady, and he's going to have some quick speed as you can over overcome that deficit.
Through the labyrinth to finish bed.
Dead heat now. He's got a chance in the bottom. This is going to be right to the 100. This is what bobsledding's about. It's going to be too close to call.
Danilovich and the Czech team through the finish quarters. They did. They lost a lot of time. 11 hundredths, and Germany 3 has moved up once again.
Well, I think Hofter just had a bad first heat. We alluded to that. And he's just reeling in these other 3 or 4 sleds in front of him. They should have been ahead in the first place.
The track much slower than it was for the first heat. And now Austria 1, your driver Wolfgang Stampfer in 8th position coming into run number 2.
Big 6'3" guy from Innsbruck. He's bronze medal in Altenburg to start the season off, and since then he's been looking at everybody else finish on the podium. Start time 5:12 is his nemesis. But at Innsbruck on his home track, you can't get away with a bad start. Here on Lake Placid, you can, but you have to be perfect all the way around. Look at the way that articulation stretches out. Everybody's out. Look at that speed difference.
20.28 seconds.
3/10 of a kilometer is, you're dealing with hundredths of seconds is a lot. He was late into Devil's Highway. Now he's up to plus 17. This is not a good heat for Stampfer, and he did not have a good exit of shading.
Matthias Hofner, the Germany 3 driver, is at the finish right now, just watching and waiting and seeing all these sleds struggle after he put down such a great run. And he just passes sled after sled, moving up in the rankings. We're going to have 3 German sleds in the top 8.
Well, we expected that to start with. It just tells you Hofner had a bad first heat. Hofner's loving it. It tells you what the Austrian coach thought of that. He just dropped the 5th best time so far. He drops down 3 places. He's in 4th place. And you can see the expression right there. He just bangs his hands in the cowling, and he didn't like it.
Top 7 sleds still to come.
Bobsledding's about power, strength, and speed. Here's the German team in their last workout of the year at the Olympic Training Center in Lake Placid. Pumping weight, chest, stomach. They do it all. Power, explosion. That's what bobsledding's all about. This is the last workout of the year for all these athletes. And I'm sure a month from now they'll be doing it just like Andre Lange's looking on right here.
Potatoes need not apply in this sport, that's for sure. Now, the only Swiss sled in this competition, Switzerland won. The driver, Ivo Rug. Martin Onnen chose not to compete in the 4-man after being disqualified in the 2-man, so this is the only Swiss sled we'll see.
Well, his cousin Ralph Rug hurt his neck in the 2-man, and it could have picked up Ralph Rug's team, but there's such an animosity between the Swiss teams this year. Annen had one of his brakemen get his bottle broken over his head by one of his Swiss teammates. They sent that guy home, so the Swiss are not ending up on a high note, and this has not been a good media day for the Swiss back in Switzerland. There's a lot of pressure on the Swiss Federation to try and correct this problem. To have only one Swiss sled in the 4-man and only one Swiss sled finish in the 2-man, neither one of them are going to finish in the medals. Needless to say, it's not kind of clear.
Speed not as good as Matthias Hofner, who really did have a great second run. We're really seeing that now.
Well, Rug is new. His cousin Ralph won one of those events at St. Moritz, but Ivo doesn't have the same experience as Ralph. Again, I mentioned that their fathers, I competed against in the late 70s. They were both Olympians and won medals in Lake Placid in 1980, back of Eric Scherer's sled. This doesn't look good here either.
149.1.
The Germans are looking like this one might be gone here, the way they're waving. Yeah, they know what they saw. So Rug maintains his place. So this is, hey, anytime he's in the top 6 or 7, you see Rug will be very happy with that result.
And Hofner has to be thrilled with the number of sleds that he passed with that excellent second run. But Switzerland won, currently in first with 6 sleds to go here in run number 2.
Look at this. Benham's band a little high there, head slapped, got on late. Look at the eyes, barely above the cow. Look at the runners. straight at us, but he didn't have the speed. 4 kilometers off Cerville of Monaco. And Cerville went early, had good ice to work with.
Next up, Germany 2. Rennie Spies is your driver. He finished 6th in the overall World Cup standings, a couple of medals this season. Did not have very good training runs early in the week, but a couple of days ago seems to have straightened things out, and he's coming off a bronze medal in the 2-man event here last weekend.
Yeah, he's got rib problems, torn cartilage. Look at his helmet. Look at his helmet. Look at the aerodynamics on this German team's driver's helmet. This is a new helmet out, and only the driver's wearing it. Why? Watch the 3 guys get in, get out behind the driver. And that sets up the aerodynamic position. The driver's helmet is the only thing you're seeing above the cowling, and that's an aerodynamic drag helmet that reduces drag. Just another way to find a couple hundreds down the track.
The other 3 beside the driver just get the thing moving as fast as they can in the first 50 meters and then just kick back.
Well, they used to
drive.
We used to call them sandbags, but not anymore. They're athletes to push the sled and get in. It's, you know, you have to get in there with cat-like movements and ride. You got to know where you are in the course. You just can't be flopping around in there. You got to be rigid in there and just feel yourself around. Look at the lead. Spies. Now this is a wounded warrior right here. Spies said all he could do to get out of that finish line. First 2 days of practice this week in the 4-man, he was sitting on the sleds. End of the season, Rennie Spies has got 2 heats left after this.
37 hundredths ahead of Ivo Rug of Switzerland, and Rennie Spies and Germany 2 into the lead with 2 runs to go. We're going to take a look at a replay here of Rennie Spies' run and see where maybe he was able to take the advantage in this race so far.
Well, again, look at the helmets. Look at the eyes. Look at the spray coming up off the runners. These 2-mans go a lot straighter than the 4-mans go a lot straighter than those 2-mans. Those 2-mans are like little sports cars.
The top 5 sleds still to come. Back with more from Lake Placid.
For your viewing area, France 1. Set to come down.
Welcome back to Lake Placid. France 1 now at the start, currently in 5th position. The driver, Bruno Mingin, a bronze medal at the World Cup event in St. Moritz earlier this year. He was also the world champ in the 4-man just 4 years ago, and a bronze medalist in the 2-man that year. So, John, you've been saying over and over that this guy is one of the best pure drivers in the sport.
Yeah, him and Sanders Bruce here, but he's about to come up with a couple sleds. Mangin won the World Cup title in Cortina in '99, the World Championships. He won a bronze medal in Nagano in 4-man. France's first medal in bobsledding in almost 60 years. Here's our standings. Mangin knows how to drive. Got a skid there, though.
His start times are never great, but he's one of the rare guys who can actually make up time towards the bottom of the track.
Time coming down through white face and taking the devil's time away.
Like this guy. And this is his specialty. He's at the twilight of his career. Doesn't have many races left. Some people say this might be his last.
He loves the longer tracks and he loves the more challenging tracks. And Lake Placid certainly qualifies in both counts.
You give him the superior start time, nobody touch him. Bang there, he wasn't smooth coming through there. He's lost a lot of time. I wouldn't call this a very good heat for Bruno Mangin. The Germans are very relaxed looking on.
Rennie Spies and his German counterparts have remained in the lead. Mangin 54.64 time in run number 2, and he's 23 hundredths off the lead now. As you said, John, he can't be thrilled with that.
Mistake way up at the start. Curve 3, skidding, saw the runners moving.
Back up to the top now, and Sandis Prusis, the man we've been talking about all day long, one of the favorites in this race. This guy is one of the top 4-man drivers in the world. 4 World Cup medals this season, but as we said, he's never medaled in a World Championship or an Olympic competition. Finished 2nd in the overall World Cup standings this year. Very fast training runs, and he's in 4th position heading into run number 2 today.
Well, before the wall came down, the Soviet Union team was all Latvians, and he was one of the members of the team. gives up a little time at the start. You wouldn't believe the TV ratings. It's the only winter sport bobsledding is that gets tremendous TV appeal. Here's our in sync. Which driver gets in first? Pretty much the same. 2, 3. Looks like the Latvians are the last ones in the sleds. Latvia has got a big following for bobsledding. They don't have biathletes or ski jumpers, alpine skiers. Bobsledding is the sport of choice by the winter sports athletes in Latvia. It's amazing. 60% of the TV sets are usually on watching the bobsled competition, and they're watching this one too because it's live to Europe.
Bruces is losing a little bit of time. His lead is down to 1/100th of a second at the last split. We'll see if he's picked it up a little bit. Not much, John. This is going to be close.
Yeah, 100 to 200. You know, Manjean, Spieth already took care of Manjean. I don't know if he's going to take care of Bruces. It's going to be close. -10. So Bruces does a little magic on the bottom. Separates himself from the German sled. He's in 4th place. And just hanging around to put himself in medal position.
Very nice driving on the bottom portion of that track to extend that lead. And his trademark wave to the camera.
There he is. He's not steering here. 2 runners. Look at this. No steering means no friction, faster speed.
So Bruces in 4th position, 3 sleds to go, including American Todd Hayes. We'll have more from Lake Placid right up. Welcome back to Lake Placid, the Verizon FIVT Men's Bobsled World Championships. The sled in 3rd position in run number 2. Russia won, and the driver Alexander Zubkov. He would have had a track record in his first run, but a couple of guys were even faster than him. But still, he's got to be thrilled with his position right now. This is a bit of a surprise, John.
Well, 2001, March, this track at its first World Cup, he was the leader at the end of the first day. He fell 4 places. Hasn't been doing well all season. He's got some 4th place finishes, 5th place finishes. They weren't consistent. He's young. If we're going to follow bobsledding, Zubkov is the name you're probably going to hear about by the time we come to the Torino Games. With start times like that, a new track record at the start, you can make mistakes down below. If you don't have a good start time, you can't make mistakes. Zubkov is flying. He's rough. It's all over the track on 2 runners.
And he tied Matthias Hoffner for speed at that early split.
Well, that's all related to the superior start time. He is almost a 10 plus on the start faster. 2600s out of Shady, down to 1700s, very clean through chicane. This is the biggest surprise of the day, irrelevant of what anybody else does. No one expected this Russian to be out of this Latvian at the bottom. It's going to be close, but he should have enough. He does.
7/100ths of a second ahead of the Latvian sled driven by Sandis Bruces. So Alexander Zubkov and Russia won, take over the top spot with only 2 sleds to go. They didn't even realize it until then, John.
And they just put up their hands. They can't. I think they're a little shocked themselves. Now look at the way he's coming through Devil's Highway. Look at the head snapping. He's late there. Look at the heads. A little bit of a skid. Now he's up on 2 runners, not by choice. Articulation stretches and maxes out. And well, in the chicane, though, I give him credit. He came through here perfectly. Didn't have any kind of speed as Bruces. That's why Bruces caught him on the bottom.
You said it before. You can make mistakes later in the track if you have that great start. He did. And now, here is the 1993 U.S. National Kickboxing Champion, who is now the top U.S. bobsled driver, Todd Hayes. This is the team, Bill Schuffenhauer, Randy Jones, Garrett Hines, that won the silver medal at the 2002 Olympics in Salt Lake City. They didn't race together all year until the last World Cup event, and they won a silver in that.
Bobsledding is a team sport. And the team element is here in the first 50 meters. And it's about a 50-meter start time. Start record, the Russians just posted 496. That's a couple hundreds within the start record. Who gets in first here? The Russians are always accused of running too far. Hayes in first, down. So the Americans were in quicker. Now the Bowline sled. He's got a huge lead. He's not worried about Zukov, he's worried about that guy up on top of the track there, Andre Long. Look at the speed, though. He's got the best speed so far. The full-line sled's flying.
Winston Cup veteran Jim Bodine saw the 92 Olympics on TV, decided he wanted to get involved with the bobsled program, and he has created some superb sleds.
And they're flying here in the chicane. Can he get through? He does. Big speed, 127 plus. And he's got a big lead. The question is, he might need every 100th because Lange is up next. And this is time in the bag. Look at that, wow. He really separated himself from that Russian sled. That's an eternity of time in the sport of bobsled.
54.19 in run number 2.5 second lead. He is comfortably in first position with only one sled to go. And he looks like he's in great shape to win the first U.S. medal at a World Championship since '97.
Look at the Bodine sled coming right at us. Look at the friction on the runners. He didn't have the best speed, but he was pretty close. In fact, he tied Bruce's for the best speed.
We'll be back with race leader Andre Longa as the U.S. coaches cheer on. Coming right back.
Good job, buddy.
The 2003 Men's Bobsled World Championships being brought to you by Verizon, proud sponsor of the U.S. Bobsled and Skeleton teams. Here is, quite simply, the man in this sport these days, Andre Longa. Does he have any more room in his trophy case, John?
He's still a young dude. Got married in the summer. Intense eyes. One of the friendliest, most popular athletes in the track. The two of these guys right here have a tremendous relationship.
They're turning this into one of the great rivalries in this sport. And with 3 years to go before the next Olympic Games, you can expect to see these two going for quite some time.
Last year, Hayes was the leader at the end of the first two heats of the Olympic Games. And here's Lange trying to become the leader and reverse role. Who gets in first? Look at the technique. Hayes is in first by 2 seconds. USA down quicker. But look at the start time these guys just had. Awesome. Start records. This guy just continues to turn it on when he has to. Some athletes have that ability in all sports, but Lange has done it throughout his career. Last year in Salt Lake, it was the third heat. He spanked the rest of the field, and no one could catch him in the 14th. It was a race for the silver and the bronze. Right here, though, it's a little closer than expected. It's down to 300. He's perfect, though, to the chicane like we saw him do last week. This is going to be tight.
Just moments ago on the United States.
Hayes and his teammates look on as Longa hits the finish corner. His final time, 54.20 in heat number 2. He basically keeps the exact same lead he had coming into this run. Hayes and Longa with nearly identical second runs. Germany in the lead by 0.06 of a second over USA 1.
Well, the guy with the best time at the bottom is the guy who had the best time in the first 50 meters. Start times. That dominates this sport.
Here you look at the standings. Hayes just 0.06 of a second out of gold medal position. Zubkov in the bronze medal spot. He'll be battling Prusis for that bronze medal along with Rennie Spies. 3 German sleds in the top 8, and great results so far for USA 2, driven by the young Stephen Holcomb.
Awesome result for him. Rest of the field.
Let's check in with the top U.S. driver, Todd Hayes.
Todd Hayes, second after 2 days. After the Olympics, after 2 runs, you were in first place. Do you like the position being in the lead, or do you like attacking after the first 2 runs?
You know, I guess it's not bad being in this this situation. We know just trying to let the sled go and try to catch up, and I think Lange has some more pressure trying to fight us off. But you know, we'll see.
All right, can it go faster? I guess that's the question, huh?
You know, I think it always can go faster. At least bobsled drivers think they could be a little bit faster each trip, and I think we can find a time, a couple different corners. You know, we're going to try to put it together tonight and watch film and see what happens.
Okay, and as far as the runners with the weather that's supposed to be coming in tomorrow, any other changes?
That's a good question. We're going to check the weather channel all night, checking the computer and see what's going on, and then sit down with the coaches and try to figure out what runners we're going to go with.
All right, good luck tomorrow.
Tomorrow, Andre Lange peeks out from behind the trophy that he now owns. 2 weeks from now, though, he might not own it. He's very superstitious, didn't want to touch the trophy, didn't want his teammates around it, but John Hayes and Bill Schupenauer, they're shining it up. Randy Jones and Garrett Hines looking on. They hope to become the first U.S. team to capture this trophy since 1959, and before that it was 1948 at the World Champion of the Olympics in St. Moritz. So it's been a long drought in the United States, and this was the last time they won that trophy, Chris, in St. Moritz in 1959.
Should be a great finish tomorrow. The final 2 runs from Lake Placid. Tune in tomorrow. We'll see you then.
Down its time. Still they leave their fear behind. A single man or crew will stand with pride. Oh yeah. Racing on the edges like a fine line between nights and fire. Racing on the edge and rest assured these puppies will find.
The final event of the season on the World Cup bobsled circuit, the World Championships from Lake Placid today, the 4th and final run of the 4-man competition.
They're racing for one of the most famous winter sports trophies in existence, the Martineau Cup, named after one of the founders of the St. Moritz Bobsled Club. They've been giving this away since 1930. Legendary Billy Fisk got it to 32 games in Lake Placid, and since then it's been handed out to all the World Championship and Olympic competitions. Mostly dominated by the Germans as expected here in 52. And here in 2000, Andre Lange, our leader, and here Christoph Lange in 2001. And today's favorites, it's Andre Lange checking things out. He's very superstitious, didn't want to touch the trophy, didn't want his team around the trophy. But yesterday, he was flying down the track. He's the leader at the end of the first 2 heats. The Americans, though, right behind him. They haven't won this trophy since '59, and Todd Hayes and crew proved out to challenge the Germans in the second run at the fastest time. They're only 600ths out of first position. Bodine sled was flying on the bottom part of Mount Van Hovenberg's Olympic track here. Big surprise of the day, Alexander Zhukov, the Russian team. No one expected these guys to be in the top 3. A lot of pressure on them. Haven't won a medal as the Russian Federation of the sport of bobsledding since the fall of the Iron Curtain. This is a big day for the Russian bobsled program. Lurking close behind the Russians, Sanders Crucis, his Latvian team. He's less than a 10th behind the Russians, and he's expected to challenge them for one of the medals. Crucis, one of the best pilots on the planet, didn't have it all perfect yesterday. We expect him to come out here today and put the pressure on the Russians for that bronze medal.
Should be a great final day of competition in the 4-man event here at Mount Van Hovenberg. Welcome back to Lake Placid. The Outdoor Life Network presents the Verizon Bobsled World Championships. I'm Chris Kelly along with John Morgan. 3 runs down now, 1 to go.
Well, it's turned into a 2-horse race. Todd Hayes and Andre Lange, but Lange's got 3,500ths lead on Hayes. Very similar to the Olympics last year. The German came out in the 3rd heat and just blew away the rest of the field. Andre Lange just seems like an athlete that knows when to turn it on.
Let's take a look at what happened earlier today in the 3rd run.
Here's the guy you expected to make the big move, Sanders Prusis, but stayed about the same distance away from the Russian. He's still in 4th place, but he's still lurking close enough to challenge for a bronze medal.
We said yesterday, John, that Prusis has never won a medal in a major competition, a World Championships or an Olympic Games, and this could be his day to do that.
Well, the team Alexander Zubkov, the Russians, still hanging around. Why? Because they have the superior start times. They have the top 1 or 2 start times in every single heat. But he's also driving. This is not what you expect from this military guy. Big day for Russia if he maintains this position. The Americans, Team Todd Hayes. They lost a lot of time in the 3rd heat, much like last year at the Olympics. Lange put a big separation between Hayes and himself. Much like in golf, they call the Masters the 3rd day, the 3rd heat, the moving day. And that's what happened here to Hayes. Just fell back behind Lange, but he's well ahead of the other 2 sleds. And here's Andre Lange. Boy, can he turn it on. He's won the last 3 events. The 2 men, including last week. Lange just seems to be unstoppable. A German juggernaut. Start times. Record times at the bottom. I don't know if anybody can stop me here today.
This guy is truly at the top of his game. Here are your standings after run number 3. Lange, as we said, extending his lead to 3,400ths over Hayes. Zubkov, Prusis, and Germany 2, piloted by Rennie Spies, should be battling for the bronze. The Frenchman Bruno Mingin in 6th, and good results so far for Stephen Holcomb of the United States, an up-and-coming driver on the World Cup circuit. We're going to be showing you all these sleds in run number 4 as the final day of competition winds down at the Verizon Sports Complex. This event being brought to you by Verizon, proud sponsor of the U.S. bobsled and skeleton teams. Back to Lake Placid in a moment. Welcome back to Lake Placid, everyone. John, let's take a look at the track they'll be competing on today, a little less than a mile long.
And the guy who's got the track record at the first 50 meters is the guy with the track record at the bottom. And here's one of the ice meisters they brought in from Altenburg, Germany to prepare the ice. Tony Carlino and his track crew out of Van Hovenberg have done an unbelievable job in adverse conditions. That's why this track's got all these records.
Brasil!
First competitors from Brazil celebrating a little carnival down in Brazil.
They skipped the big celebration.
Yeah, Eric Nelson and his teammates.
They skipped the big carnival celebration to come to Lake Placid. He was saying that a lot of people on his team had never seen snow before they came here.
And they got some good taste of 25 below temperature winter weather last weekend. And, you know, up there. Falling into the sled. These are really some good athletes in the back of the sled. Eric Nelson's done a good job with bringing athletes into the bobsleigh and skeleton programs. He's jack of all trades. He's the president of the club, chief fundraiser, and forced to drive the sleds. But here they are competing on a very challenging track. So there's been a lot of crashes out here all week, although Eric hasn't been one of them.
How do you learn the sport when you grow up in Brazil?
Well, he goes to one of the FIBT driver schools. In his case, it was in Calgary. And you get on the America's Cup circuit after you've been through the driver schools and just start working yourself up. And, you know, one thing he needs, he's starting to understand the technology, the equipment, but the start time is the nemesis for the Brazil team right now. But he promises me that there's some great athletes that are going to be coming to this program from Brazil.
The times you'll be seeing all day are measured to the hundredth of a second. Brazil is going to be way off the pace, but that's okay. This is a moral victory for them, just getting down the track. As you said, this track is very difficult, and drivers with a lot more experience than Maleson struggle here from time to time.
Well, there's only 17 sleds in the competition. A lot of people didn't want to come here. Eric had no problem.
Back to the top for Canada 1. Jason Krause is your driver. Morgan Alexander, Florian Linder, and Marc LeBlanc joining him in the sled. The only Canadian sled in the competition. Pierre Lueders wins a silver medal in the 2-man last weekend, but he doesn't compete in the 4-man.
Didn't have a good crew to compete with in the season. Look at the weather front coming in. A little mixture of snow and rain. That just happened quickly. And this Canadian team had a pretty good year. They're in the couple top 10 finishes in the World Cup. One of the youngest teams in the competition. One of the youngest drivers. The only guy younger than him is the American Steve Holcomb, who's yet to come. But he didn't have a very good day yesterday. 216 places in the first and second heat, 14th in the third heat. And I'm surprised he's not doing well here. This track. They had a pretty good 2-man competition last week.
Krause, only 26 years old, out of Okotoks, Alberta, in his second year on the Canadian national team.
Tremendous strides on the circuit. Labyrinth, quarter combination. Every track's got to have one. And now into Benham's Bend, into the chicane. He's got a bad skid there. Huge lead over the Brazilians, like you would expect. No doubt he's the leader, but boy, there's a lot of fast sleds going to be coming behind him. He hopes to move up 2 or 3 places. Canadian coach is looking on. Take a bow. That's Garrett, former East German coach, now coaching the Canadian team.
Time of 55.99, not great, but puts him in the lead for the time being. Now back to the top. The Netherlands.
Weather front's coming in. They're going to start running these sleds very, very quickly. They'll give the green light as soon as that sled's get to the bottom. Here's the Dutch having fun right now, but as soon as they get out of that fun shot, they're into some serious measures of starting to negotiate this. And Glass has got his visor up. Probably to the last possible moment. Watch him put his visor down. See, his visor came down when he got in the sled. Little visibility problem going to happen. Just like you're going to see our cameras here with some drops on them. Just think of how many drops are on these guys' visors. A lot of them have that solution they put in the visor to keep the moisture off it.
Driver Aaron Glass and his team had a great season last year, 6th in the overall World Cup standings in the 4-man. Started pretty well this year, but really haven't had great results lately.
Yeah, he lost his team, his whole start team, and if you can't start, you don't have a chance. He has got no kind of competitive start times, which really means that you got to be perfect driving down with the perfect equipment, and obviously he hasn't had that because he hasn't been in the top 10 finishes yet. He's not straight through the chicane. But he's battling the Canadians at the bottom. Looks like he's going to maintain his placing here.
As he enters the finish curve, the Dutch sled with a finish time of 55.70 for run number 3, a half second ahead of Canada 1, and into the lead with still plenty more sleds remaining. Stay tuned, more action from Mount Van Hovenberg coming right up.
Back to Lake Placid. This track, tremendous history on this track. It opened on Christmas Day, 1930, the old 1.5 miles that's next door to the new track that we're sliding on today. Hosted the 32 Olympic Games, and has hosted 6 different World Championships. The 7th World Championships is here today on this track. 61, the only time it's been on the cover of Sports Illustrated in 1961. 69, 73, 78, 1983. They also hosted 2 Olympic Games on that old track. Mount Van Hovenberg has hosted some awesome bobsled competitions. I've been to every one, but 2 of them, the 32 games, and of course the 49 World Championships. I wasn't born, but this is what happened to the track. The sled just became too fast.
Monaco
so
won.
This new one.
Sorry, John. Monaco won ready to shove off now. Patrice Serville is the driver. He's 28 years old, joined in the sled by a bunch of 30-somethings from Monte Carlo. And they have a coach who certainly has a lot of experience in the World Cup circuit and in World Championships.
Yeah, Christian Reich, silver medal, last year's Winter Olympic Games. In the two-man competition, they're driving a Christian Reich designed sled. They've got his runners on, and they've sort of just taken some Swiss technology and experience and brought it into their program. They've had a lot of success. Good result last week in the two-man, and the Monaco team has really improved this year all the way through the season.
Prince Albert of Monaco is a big bobsled enthusiast and a competitor, and he's raised the interest level and the level of awareness in his country of this sport.
Well, it just tells you about bobsledding and skeleton. There's so many countries that compete in these sports. It's awesome to see countries like Brazil, Monaco, Netherlands. You know, usually the winter sports is just dominated by Switzerland, Austria, Germany. Here it's North Americans, the Canadians, and the U.S. have a big presence also. You see him duck his head there for aerodynamics at the finish. A lot of teams will do that. And he's our leader.
55.70 in run number 4, and 0.2 of a second ahead right now of the Netherlands. Monaco 1 currently in first. Latvia 2 now at the start. Gatis Guts is the driver, currently in 13th place. He's gotten up close and personal with this track in the past.
A little face plant for him and his teammates on Tuesday, the first day of training. I think they're still a little beat up because they have no type of start time. They have a 6th, a 5th, a 5th best at the start in the first 3 heats, but he hasn't been driving at all. Finished 5th last week in a two-man, one of his best finishes ever in anything. And he expected to do much better than this, and he loves this track.
Latvia expects some results today, but this is not the man expected to deliver them. Sandis Prusis will be up later, and Latvia's medal hopes rest squarely on his shoulders.
I mentioned yesterday the strength of Latvian bobsledding in Latvia. They don't have winter sports success. There will be athletes, ski jumpers, alpine skiers. This is the sport of choice for winter athletes in Latvia. And they have a 60% television audience draw when bobsledding's on, and all of the events are live on TV. These guys are almost like little national heroes in their small little country.
You talk about the speed all the time, John. He's just off the pace set by the Netherlands earlier.
But he's got a lot of time in the bank, big lead in the Netherlands going into this. And it looks like he's got a very clean ride at the moment. Good speed. We saw it a shady, perfect to the chicane. That little nudge there might cost him, but he's got a lot of time. And this will be the leader. Look behind, you see the Monegasque. They know that they're toast here. Gatis Guts is going to be the leader. 2,600 doesn't sound like much, but it is.
In this sport, that is a lot of time. 55.68, the time on the final run. They can't wait to get out of that sled. You're right, they may be banged up, John. So Latvia in the lead with still plenty more sleds to go. We're going to take a look at the standings at this point. Actually, a replay first. As you can see, great form through the early part of the track.
Well, he's in Devil's Highway, and this is where it really stretches the imaginations of the athletes.
Guts in the lead. We'll be back right after this.
They have the Bobsleigh Museum. It's the Olympic Hall of Fame down there. There's the 32 Olympic Games gold medal sled driven by the Stevens brothers. There's Joe Bakken's gold medal sled from last year's Winter Olympic Games. There's a German design sled from the 30s. It's all there. If you ever get a chance to go to Lake Placid, you got to stop by the Olympic Museum and also take a chance and take a ride on this Olympic bobsled track.
Well, the sleds have changed just a little bit over the years, huh?
There's been a little change in the technology and then also in the athleticism.
Yeah. Now the team from the Czech Republic, the driver Ivo Danilovic, Jan Kosak, Roman Gomola, and Jan Kobian in the sled with him. Danilovic turns 33 in April. His best World Cup finish in 9th in St. Moritz just last month. Is this one of the teams that's coming on right now?
He's been on the World Cup circuit for 3 or 4 years. Decent start, 5:07. 5 flat or below is optimum start times. Big men, here's the comparison. Who gets in first? Pretty much the same. You know, big guys, big skid there too. Big guys, but the lighter the sled that you push, but then you got to drive. Evo hasn't really had some great results driving yet. He's improved a little bit each year, but after 4 or 5 years, when you start cracking top 5, top 7s, you might want to start thinking about finding a new life.
There is a maximum amount the sled can weigh with the 4 guys inside.
We saw that last week when the Swiss team was disqualified for being overweight. This is a gravity sport, and the Latvians here are looking to move up on the Czechs. It's going to be close.
Danilovic and his team in the lead, 800ths of a second, 55.75 the time in run number 4, the 4th best time of that heat, but enough to keep him in first place. Good crowds on hand today, despite the fact that the weather is not ideal as the skies have opened up and it's raining right now pretty heavily.
Not as bad as it was about, you can see the drops coming down, and just look at the driver's eyes here. You see they have all that solution on their face mask to make sure that they can at least have a chance to see. A lot of instinct here, though.
Lots of support from the people who've come out today.
Well, I said the rain wasn't bad on the bottom part of the track. Up here at the start, you can see it's coming down a little heavily.
The Italian sled driven by Fabrizio Tossini. You saw the 2006 logo. Torino, Italy will be hosting the Olympic Games in 3 years. Do we expect some improvement from this team as the Olympics approach?
A lot of new guys in their driver schools on the circuit in the Americas and Europa Cup, and especially in skeleton and women's bob, and they expect to do a lot. I mean, you know, the Italians are one of those marquee nations in the sport of bobsledding, and luge, they used to dominate. Now they've lost all sorts of chance in the luge. Look at this, there's a push bar out. This is very dangerous. Anybody on the side of the track staying on the walls, I hope everybody gets back. I'm sure the announcements are being made over the track. This is faulty equipment, and if this thing catches, it could cause havoc on the sled. I mean, those things are very rigid, very strong. And this is a very dangerous situation. The driver, of course, doesn't know it's out.
Oh, he's losing time, too.
Yeah, well, it's not an aerodynamic element. I'm sure it's worth 6, 8, 10 hundredths on the way down. And the Czechs see this as an opportunity for them to move up. And this Italian, when he sees what's happened to his sled, is not going to like it. He came back a little bit.
Yeah, made up a little time at the bottom of the track, but the 5th best run in that 4th heat. And that certainly, that push bar being out certainly hurt him there.
Distraction.
So the Czech Republic remains in the lead.
Well, this is a technical problem here that, boy, you go back to the drawing board. What happened? Why this thing didn't come down?
Plenty more sleds to come from Mount Van Hovenberg in Lake Placid. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. World Championships are being brought to you by Verizon, proud sponsor of the U.S. bobsled and skeleton teams. The next sled, USA 2, driven by Stephen Holcomb. For years, American sladders were using second-hand sleds from Europe, but over 10 years ago, Winston Cup driver Jeff Bodine got involved, and everything changed. Bobsledding is fast and furious, much like another sport. Race cars and bobsleds go hand in hand. In fact, bobsleds have been called glorified race cars with no engines. So it was no surprise that Winston Cup veteran Jeff Bodine fell in love with the sport of bobsledding. Bodine knows all about speed and all about winning. He won the 1985 Daytona 500, plus close to 20 other races in his career. After watching the 92 Olympics on TV, Bodine felt it was time to take some pride in America and help the underfunded USA bobsled program.
You know, I knew that the Europeans weren't selling our guys and girls the best stuff. And so, and plus I thought American athletes representing the United States of America in the Olympics should be using American-made equipment.
The U.S. team enjoyed immediate success with its new Bodine sled.
This is the biggest victory for the United States in World Cup competition ever.
The Bodine project culminated at last year's Winter Olympics when the U.S. won 2 medals in the 4-man. After 10 years of hard work, Jeff Bodine's efforts were right on track.
I think I've been proud of it since the day we started it. I'm very excited that we've gotten to this level, but we've been proud since day one.
Just like any race team, without a fast car, a fast vehicle, you're certainly not going to go fast. So they're just a crucial part of the team, and definitely without them, we wouldn't be where we are today.
Back to the top for USA 2. Stephen Holcomb, just 22 years old, out of Park City, Utah. He's joined in the sled by Ivan Radcliffe of Houston, Doug Sharp of Louisville, and Will Person, born in St. Louis.
Can't tell you how well this kid's done. If he gets to the bottom, any result is awesome. Another great start time. He's at the 8th best start time in all 3 heats. Can't believe he's in this top 10 position. First major event ever. It's in the Junior World Championships 3 weeks ago, finished 6th. And he's one of the youngest. He is the youngest pilot in the field.
Tied coming into this final run with the Austrian sled. So this is definitely going to be a top 10 finish unless something drastic happens.
Well, he's got 1,700s lead, now to a 2,000s lead on the bottom. So that's great for maintaining his position, but there's a lot of sleds coming behind him.
You figure the top U.S. driver, Todd Hayes, is in his early 30s. Over the next 10 years, imagine how much this guy can accomplish.
Yeah, he's very laid-back individual, great eye-hand coordination, great athlete, which is the most important element.
And the Czechs know that they're finished, John.
Yeah, and Holcomb. Congratulations to Steve Holcomb and his team. This is one of the best finishes I've ever seen by a young U.S. bobsledder in 25, 30 years.
U.S. coach Tuffy Latour knows that that is an outstanding performance over the past 2 days by Holcomb.
I don't think he understands what he just accomplished.
On paper, when you see a top 10, it might not mean much, but just the experience that he gained and how much he was able to do this weekend is great, and great speed.
Yeah, and Tuffy Latour knows he's got a great project to work with. Brian Scheimer in the background.
You happy with this heat? Yeah, it was much better. Finally got some things right. About time now.
Finally. Seems like he's been getting things right for a while.
Yeah, USA's had a good performance out of both their number 2 pilots. Last week, Mike Kahn. This week, Steve Holcomb.
Now Austria won, the team that was tied with Holcomb in 9th position coming into this final run. The driver, Wolfgang Stampfer, is joined by Andreas Poehler, Klaus Silos, and Eugenio Balanc. Austria hasn't won a medal at the World Championship since '95. That's got to be a bit disappointing for that program.
Well, with that track at Innsbruck, their program's been on the slide for a number of years. There's their coach yelling at him to get a better start time. The 11th, and 7th best start time, so their starts improved, but he's in dead heat with Holcomb. So right here, I'll tell you, he's got 200s in the bank on Steve Holcomb right now at the bottom. And he's got all the experience. I mean, this shouldn't even be a race. He's got big speed, so look at that speed. This last thing on Wolfgang Stampfer's mind to have the rookie pilot at the bottom, Steve Holcomb, beat him. And he's sliding for pride right now, and a chance to move up 2 or 3 places. -2 to -4.
He isn't adding much to his lead with all that speed.
It's going to be pretty close. Only a mistake down here will prevent him from being our leader, but it's going to be within a finger length.
The U.S. team eagerly anticipating this last time. They gained a lot of time at the bottom of the track, John.
Yeah, Gerhard Rayner, the coach, is fine. We beat those Americans.
Still plenty more sleds ahead. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
At the end.
Welcome back to Lake Placid. Germany 3 now in 8th position. The driver, Matthias Hoffner, a pair of 7th place finishes on the World Cup circuit for him this season. And it shows you the depth of the German program, as we've said time and time again, that they can have 3 sleds competing in the top 8.
Well, the only reason that they're the only country that has 3 sleds in the competition is because they won the World Cup title which gives them that 3 sleds in there. It's that incentive. And otherwise, every other country can only allow to have 2 sleds in the field. So it's this Germany 3 sleds taking advantage of it. He's in his first World Championships ever. We're probably going to see a lot of him. But as you said, there's 5, 6 more Germans behind him.
There was another German sled that won an event on the World Cup circuit this year.
Yeah, Feisthoff and LaPlan. He just won the Germany World Championships. That'll be a name we'll be hearing from for many years.
A comfortable lead over the Austrian sled, over a half second at that last split.
A little inconsistent at the start. He had a 14th place start time in the 3rd heat. Much better than the other 3 heats. Half-second lead, that's an eternity of time. 100th of a second is equal to one of your fingernails. So give you an idea how this sport is clocked.
Through the heart, through the finish curve, the final time 55.35 in heat number 4. That's the best run so far in this heat, and a comfortable lead, comfortably in first place, Germany 3. The fans out here are cheering on everyone, John. They don't care what flag you have on the front of your sled. If you're going to sit out here in the rain, I guess, you might as well be loud. Back to the top, Switzerland 1. Ivo Rug is the driver, joined by Daniel Mockler, Stefan Baumert, and Christian Albi, or Abley, I should say. Rug comes from a long line of bobsledders in his family.
Well, there's 3 different Rugs competing on the World Cup circuit, all cousins. A 4th is about to come out, they say, next year. Their fathers I competed against in the late 70s, and their fathers won silver medals with Eric Scher at the 80 Olympic Games in Lake Placid. So rich tradition of bobsledding in its sense in St. Moritz, but this tells you how much of a passion that this family has for the sport.
This is the only Swiss sled in the competition.
The Swiss have had a few internal problems amongst the teams and the athletes this year. They didn't win a medal in the 2-man. The top sled got disqualified for being overweight. And this is the only sled left. And it looks like they're going to be the leaders. It's going to be close, but they should have enough time in the bank here to be the leader.
The sport that, or the country that invented this sport, I'm sure this is quite disappointing that they don't have anyone near the medals in this weekend.
7th place, best he can do.
The battle for the bronze is still ahead. Back to Lake Placid in a moment. Welcome back to Lake Placid, the 2003 Bobsled World Championships. This is the sled from France, driven by Bruno Minjean, and this guy has a few medals under his belt.
Well, gold medalist at the 99 World Championships at Cortina, bronze medal at the Nagano Winter Olympic Games, and a couple medals this year on the circuits. Won a couple events in Le Plan, France in previous years, but his nemesis is the start time. 10th best start in the first 3 heats. It's pretty tough to have that type of deficiency in the first 50 meters. You have to be perfect down here, and that's not perfect. That little corner up there has caused a lot of problems. When you're running at a slow speed, you can't make mistakes like that.
Will the weather make the track that much different from day to day?
Well, sometimes when it rains like this on this track, it adds a little bit of a moisture on it and a hydroplane effect, less friction in the items. Depending on how much moisture, they have a chance to go faster. You can see it's still coming down pretty hard.
4/100ths of a lead at that last split.
The Swiss are looking on like they're toast themselves. Manchon is pretty tough to catch when the sled's flying. There it is, looking, went from -4 to -17. Give him 200 more meters, he might be the gold medalist.
You said it time and time again, John, this guy is good towards the bottom of the track, and he's one of the rare guys who can actually make up time as he goes down.
Might be his last race. Could retire, he's 40 years old.
Germany 2 now. Rennie Spies, Franz Sagmeister, Enrico Kuhn, and Jens Noka.
Yeah, this is what bobsledders do. They do the little simulation patterns. They feel out where they are in the course.
Celebrating their victory celebration as well.
Well, he had won 3 events on the 2-man circuit, challenged for the World Cup title. 4-man just is not as dominant. He's got 2 or 3 medals in the World Cup circuit, 4-man, but he's not the domination on in this 4-man sled like he is in the 2-man.
I'll tell you how big some of the other athletes have to be in these sleds. One of the guys, Sackmeister's nickname is the Beast.
He's about 6'3", 240, and is he ever cut?
France 1 is there, but they're not going to challenge if Spies continues to move down the track this way. He's got a huge lead right now.
Spies has got a bad toe. He's got some bad ribs from last week's 2-man competition, and he's about 20 seconds away from his season being finished, and I'm sure he's thrilled because he's pretty banged up. Easily going to be our leader. The French know it as they wave goodbye. René Spies of Winterberg, Germany, will be our leader. Old class.
Still plenty more sleds to go, but Spies right now has put himself in the top spot with only 4 sleds to go. Back with more from Lake Placid in a moment. Welcome back to the Bobsled World Championships. Latvia won, driven by Sandis Prūsis. He had a great year, 4 medals on the World Cup circuit in the 4-man, including 2 gold. He was second in the overall World Cup standings and really likes this track. He won gold at the Winter Goodwill Games, the first event on this track back in the winter of 2000.
And that was in a 2-man competition where the track wasn't very mature. It was all about driving, not even start times. But Prūsis needs to hit a home run here. He cannot have any mistakes. He's not worried about beating Spies as much as just putting the perfect time down, getting to the bottom in hopes that the Russians will come behind him make a mistake. It's the only chance he's got.
He's losing time to Spies right now.
Well, that's related to the lesser start time. Spies had a 4th best start. Prūsis was a couple hundreds behind that. Now he's got it back to -1. +2 to -1. And that's a good sign for the Latvians, but he's going to have to be perfect down here in the speed part of the course, the chicane out of Bennet's Bend right here.
You can really see the rain in that shot.
-1. So he was -1 to -1. That might tell you that he might be giving some time back. It's going to be right to the fingernail who's going to have a chance to win a medal here.
And whoever's leading here has a chance at the bronze.
Look at the disgust on the Latvian coaches. They know the medal chances are gone for this season, and maybe forever for Sandis Prūsis. This could be his last race.
So Latvia moves into second, Germany 2, René Spies in first, and the Russians are at the top of the hill. Spies still has a chance at a bronze medal here. And as you've said, John, this is the big surprise. Alexander Zubkov, and Russia won.
Yeah, you think this guy would be in 6th, 7th place, but he had the best start in the first heat, the second best start in the second and third heats. So when you got start times, you could challenge. Russian military, all 4 of these athletes, young, average age about 25, tall, lanky, and every year you see them, they seem to be getting a little more big, is the expression.
The Soviets won a medal in the 4-man at the '88 Olympics in Calgary, but since then, nothing.
Well, that's when it was the Soviet Union, which was made up mostly of Latvians. Now it's Russian, and the Russians have never won a medal in bobsledding since the fall of the Iron Curtain. This is a history-making potential moment right here.
1600s lead at that first split, down to 14.
He's bleeding the time. Next clock, he's got to hope he's at 11 or 12. If he gets down to single digits, he could be throwing it away. There's 13. He's still bleeding time. This will be a huge celebration at the bottom by the Russian coaches at the top. This means so much to their program. -12. The bleeding. Yeah, this is going to be close. The Germans are looking on. This is for a medal. It's Germany or Russia. Historic moment for Russia if they hang on. They do. Wow.
When you can see the elation in the coaching staff, clearly you can tell what this medal means to this program.
This is huge. These athletes are ecstatic. They have toiled for a long time.
Zubkov didn't seem exceptionally pleased with any of his runs. He always had to wait until he checked out the clock before he realized that he was in the lead, but he was in that third position the entire weekend.
Look at the celebration here. They deserve every moment.
Final two sleds still to come. The Bobsled World Championships are being brought to you by Verizon, proud sponsor of the U.S. Bobsled and Skeleton teams. The U.S. hasn't won a gold at the World Championships since 1959. Let's meet one of the guys who was in that sled 44 years ago.
I've been all over the world. I was in the military for 20 years. I raced all over the world. I wouldn't live anywhere else.
Gary Sheffield was on two Olympic bobsled teams in 1964 and 1968. He also coached the 1980 U.S. team. But perhaps his greatest accomplishment, Sheffield was in the last U.S. sled to capture gold at the World Championships back in 1959.
Oh, I know, it was really, it's like, you don't really believe it right away. You don't. And then all of a sudden, reality sets in and you did win. It's amazing.
Years ago, athletes around the U.S. didn't have much interest in bobsledding. The U.S. team was short on cash, and more sliders from the Adirondacks were getting a chance to compete.
It was tough because they were thrown into world competition. So pretty hard to go from a backyard kid in Keene to a world competitor because Europeans were dead serious. I mean, they went at bobsledding with a vengeance.
And even more so than today, sliders risked their lives every time they went down the track.
Tracks are way safer than they were before. There was no lips on the curves. If you made a mistake, you went out in the trees. And we used to lose at least one or two guys a year.
This is the sled that will try to end that gold medal drought. Todd Hayes is the driver, joined by Bill Schuffenhauer from Salt Lake City, Randy Jones and Garrett Hines, both from Atlanta.
Well, all they can do is hope to put a perfect heat in and hope that somehow the German juggernaut Andre Lange makes a mistake. But Hayes last year finished behind Lange. There's the Russians at the bottom. They don't care what happens. They've got a bronze medal. And the USA didn't have a very good start time in the last heat, 5 seconds. And that gave up a lot of time to Lange, so they want to improve on that 5-second start. This time, 496. And you heard the crowd up there. A lot of people up here cheering him on. And who gets in the sled here first? Looks like Hayes is down quicker than the Russian driver. But the Americans, a huge lead, 8400ths lead. Take a look at Hayes' helmet. It's got aerodynamic shape to it.
0.5 seconds.
The guys behind him are just sitting in aerodynamic positions, feeling their way down. And the Bodine sled, with Hayes behind the controls, has to do the rest, increasing his lead almost a full second.
With this huge lead, can he just let it all hang out and go after Lange?
I think he didn't change anything. 92 hundredths, he lost a couple hundredths back there. I think he realizes he's got at least a silver medal in the bank if he comes down here safely. He's got a 35 hundredths deficit to Lange, and that's a lot in bobsledding. And crosses the line, 93 hundredths lead, silver medal for USA 1.
For Randy Jones, that's his third World Championship medal. He won a bronze in the four-man at the 93 Worlds and a bronze again in 97. Now he moves up a color and gets a silver.
Garrett Hines also with them. Hines and Jones have both said they're going to retire after this competition. What a way to go out for those two fantastic athletes.
Hines qualified his statement. He said he retires 2 or 3 times a year, so we'll wait and see, but certainly that's what he's been saying.
And Hayes goes right to the chart. Find out his times, puts it into his mental computer.
It has been an amazing stretch for Todd Hayes. Olympic silver last year, silver at the Worlds this year at least. We are stating it like it's a formality. Something could happen here, but Andre Lange with a very comfortable lead coming into this fourth and final run. Lange joined in the sled by Rene Hoppe Kevin Kuska and Karsten Embach.
Look at the way Lange stands there. He's possessed. Look at him. Look at him. Nothing phases this guy. I've seen a lot of people come down the tracks of the sport over the years, and I've been impressed with him since the first time I saw him in Calgary in December of '98. It was his first World Cup event. He won it straight out. And he's won 3 straight events and about to win his 4th. Only a major mistake here, somebody falling out of a sled or crashing down below, will prevent him from winning this gold medal.
Not even 30 years old, and he could be a 2-time world champion and an Olympic gold medalist.
He won this event in 2000. He won this event last year. So 2 of the last 3 years, he's trying to make it 3 out of 4. It got a skid there. 3,100th lead. He doesn't have the same speed as Hayes.
Losing a little bit of time, but is it enough for the Americans to get on top?
Still 31. That means he stopped the bleeding. Next clock's probably going to be 35 or 36. That's the way this guy is in the bottom part of the track. He gets through this chicane. Look at that, 37. He's straight through the chicane. No one comes through that part of the track like he has last weekend and this weekend. This is the best pilot in the world, no doubt in my mind.
Basically a victory lap from here for Germany 1.
Wow. Cruised away from the rest of the field.
The best run in the final heat, and he just extends the lead that he already had. High fives all around in the finish area.
He's had a pretty good 3 weeks. Won the last 2 events in Calgary. Won last weekend. Won this weekend. Good way to finish up.
Within the sport of bobsled, this is as significant as Olympic gold. He seems unfazed, John.
A lot of relief. Long season, it's over. These guys are great friends, all 4 of them. You have to be.
Here's a look at the final results. Lange wins the gold, Hayes the silver, and the surprising Russian Zubkov takes the bronze. And a great result this weekend for American Stephen Holcomb, a top 10 finish for the 22-year-old.
Well, they got a hold of the Martineau Trophy. If you win it 4 times in a row, you get to keep it. It's never happened. This trophy's been around since 1930. What the Stanley Cup is to hockey, this is to bobsledding. And now, this German pilot, here's Billy Fisk, he won it in 1930. Now, Andre Lange has captured 3 of the last 4 years. 2 more years, he wins
Todd,
it.
maybe a little disappointed last week. Silver medal, you happy?
Absolutely, yeah. We guys came out, pushed as hard as they could. You know, the team performed extremely well. The Germans weren't going to be beat today.
Okay. So, Andre, 4 Läufe hintereinander gewonnen. Wer kann Andre Lange stoppen? Who can stop 4 races in a row? Who can stop Andre Lange?
Darüber denken wir jetzt nicht mehr nach. Wir gehen heute Abend in Zickzack, lassen die Korken knallen, machen Schädelfluten und dann kriechen wir auf allen 4 raus.
Last week you mentioned the Caribbean. You're gonna take the time now to go down there. Letzte Woche hast du über die Karibik gesprochen. Vielleicht dahin?
Das Zickzack ist gleich die Ecke, das geht schneller.
Okay. All right. So he says tonight it's just time to go partying down at Zigzag in Lake Placid. We're here with the gold medal winner, Andre Lange. Make sure you tune in next season for World Cup action.
For John Morgan, I'm Chris Kelly. Thanks for joining us for the Bobsled World Championships from Lake Placid here on the Outdoor Life Network.